What's going on, Bird Game? We're bringing you episode 3 of what is already out there as far as the Madden Gridiron notes. So, in this episode, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna take a look at what is going on in the new franchise mode because as we've all know, it's supposed to be completely revamped and a lot better than years past because that's what we want. We want a better franchise mode. Majority of the people still play franchise. Yes, MUT is getting bigger and bigger, but a lot of guys, especially now that we're in the digital world, we're all about the online franchises, all the 32-man leagues, all that good stuff. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get right into that. As we're here at the EA.com Gridiron notes, we'll take a look here at franchise and pretty much get a deep dive. But before we get into that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We are on the way to go ahead and hit 300 subs here by the end of August. And while you're at it, hit that like button. We are trying to go ahead and hit 15 likes here on the video. If we get more, fantastic. That is great. Leave me some comments down below as well on your thoughts of what you think is going to happen here in the new Madden 22 franchise. So as we go and get into this, they do have a video here, very in-depth, very well put together, the all-access deep dive. I don't want to show it just because the chance of the whole demonetization, even though I'm not monetized, I don't want any copyright strikes, so just kind of taking a look at it. They got the entire overview. You can go ahead and take a look at different things throughout the entire thing. But the big thing is they're talking about the franchise points. When you go ahead and get the Dynasty Edition, you get 100 of the points. MVP is 60, and I want to say the original is either 20 or 40. I don't remember off the top of my head, but pretty much those points are going to be used to build your characters in game as far as your head coach, your offensive, defensive coordinator, and then they're also adding in a added player personnel department, which that there serves as the primary player acquisition, which that's where pretty much if you're looking at the main screen on Madden 22, whenever you go into Spend Coach XP, really this is all it is. They're doing away with the XP and they're bringing in these staff points. The player personnel development is going to be the pretty much where they are looking as far as free agency. Your players wanting to retire, they want to re-sign, all that good stuff. So with that, that's what they're building this in. They just wanted to make it a little more in depth. So one of the biggest questions that I've heard throughout multiple leagues that I'm in, they want to know, like, as far as, is this going to be an add-on to buy staff points? Well, it's not. It even says right here within the Gridiron notes, furthermore, staff points are not purchasable with real life currency, so they have to be earned throughout playing the game. And as it goes in through here, staff points are earned through playing games, meeting selectable game day goals, and completing scenarios. So, with that, that's going to go ahead and, say you have a quarterback that balls out and, you got one of those lower level wide receivers. Well, through the game day scenarios, which I want to say there's like 32 of them right now, 32 scenarios or something like that, 30, but throughout the cloud-based updates, they're going to go ahead and they're going to continue to add more. So, it's going to be ever-changing, your responses, all that stuff. It's going to change throughout the year, hopefully. Hopefully they at least stick to that word and continue to do that. But, milestones, objectives, that'll get you points each week. And as you see here on the screen, win by 14 or more points, if you get... I don't know how this is based. Like, it just says, win by 14 or more, and then it has, halfway through here you get 5, and at the full you get another 5. So I don't know exactly how that's going to be placed. 2 TDs in the first half, 2 TDs first half again. Don't know why they got a double. 4 and complete 4 passes in the first drive. So they're very achievable no matter what skill level you are. So with that, that brings in the talent trees. So at least on this one, we can go ahead, we can blow it up, and it kind of gives you a better idea. So pretty much looking at it, let's slide this over here. As you're looking at it, like for the head coach, you get the secret remedy, costs 10 staff points. Decrease multi-weekly injury recovery time. So you could go and say you get let's say Saquon Barkley. He's been injury prone lately. High ankle sprain, something like that. Well, as you do that, if you don't have this secret remedy, you could go and end up being out 10 weeks, but you go ahead and you get this, you spend 10 staff points, it could cut it down to 7, 8 weeks, something like that. I don't exactly know, but it's going to be different, like I said. But that's for your head coach, your defensive coordinator. Increase injury rating for all defenders. So more practice. Everything like that. Same thing. More on the offensive coordinator and player personnel. Trade discount for older players. So this is where it's going to get in there as far as like your free agency and all that stuff to go ahead and build your team the way you want it, build your staff, get all that stuff situated. So with that, that brings us down here to the types of talents. So getting into the types of talents, but actually before we get to that, there is one thing in here. Each tree is themed to that character and the role. Some talent trees to where you go a certain way. Like when you look at it here, I'm not exactly sure which one they are. Same thing with the contracts. If you decide to go straight down the middle, well, you're no longer going to be able to go ahead and come this way, left or right. Same thing over here. It's going to be one or the other from my understanding there. So getting into that, we got the talent trees. The types of talent, sorry. Now that we started more of the talent trees, let's look at them themselves. So we can go ahead, we can pop this up big again and just kind of take a look as we got, player growth, staff modifications, all that stuff there. But this way we can at least read what's going on. There will be over 60 unique talents at launch. Some have multiple tiers. There will be over 95 talent purchases. So to get 100% on your character, there's 95. So you'll try to capture what makes the character unique. We broke down talents in 4 categories: player growth, staff changes, improvements, on-field performance, and player acquisition and retention. Which with that, it's the same exact thing as on Madden 21, whenever you go to spend Coach XP, it's just a little more in depth. So, each 4 different offensive coordinator prioritize on-field product and essentially represent the entirety of the position coaches on each side of the ball. So, you might see a boost branching decisions, boost defensive tackle by 3, or right end block shed by 3. So, that right there, it's going to be one of those things build on how you want that, and unfortunately, if you got those leagues that expand multiple years, that's going to be one of those the trial and errors that you got to get figured out. And before we continue, join the Discord. Discord is down below in the description. I'm in the process of revamping my entire thing, so get in there. We can talk. Easiest way to get a hold of me, and shoot me some ideas. Maybe if we get enough interest, we'll go ahead. We'll throw it together our own franchise and continue that way. But pretty much looking at it here from the aspect of the player personnel, it's build up your team through trades and free agency. So pretty much, you got favorite talents that you want for your team to build. Discount for older players. Scheme fits have more interested signing. So that's going to get a little more in depth as well. That way, it's not just the generic like, oh, I spent the most money, so I should get them. No, it's going to completely take other looks into everything. renewable ultimate talents, which are powerful traits at the end of each talent tree. Just kind of scrolling down through here, these talents can be purchased multiple times, but have a cooldown time that could be anywhere from 1 week to once per season. So that's going to be a big change as well. As we go ahead and we get down here into staff movement. So this here is where things are going to start getting interesting. You got the staff movement. So when you log into the franchise staff for the first time, you're going to have the full coaching staff. Now, as you've noticed in some other ones, you got the ability to have to hire a new head coach, new trainer, all that, no scouting, all that good stuff. But now you got the chance in season to fire them. Now, with this, you can go ahead, you can get a bonus of the staff points throughout, as whatever that coach currently owns. So this could be where say I built my guy to damn near 100%. Now I decide, hey, he's not working out. I want to rebuild somebody else, and I fire him. Well, somebody else within the league could go ahead and hire the guy that I had initially, and he's going to come with staff points that were already there on him. So pretty much biggest thing that you want to know, pretty much on the first hire, each coach position in the season will grant a hiring bonus. It's significantly less in season. So then if you want to wait till the off season, they're going to have their own staff move weeks directly after the Super Bowl. So that's going to be whenever you go ahead and you're able to go ahead and change up your coaching staff and build for better. They're going to have generated. They're going to have a big pool of staff. Things that you can go and do. Now with this, one of the biggest things that we want to look at here is the scouting. Scouting is one of the highest requested features for the franchise. So not only can you go ahead and focus on whether or not you want to take guys from the northeast of the United States, or you want to focus more down on football country and go Midwest, South, all that, that's going to be where you go for this. So just taking a big look at it, you got the regional breakdowns to where you can really look into your team, get to where you want to go. It's all based on your scouting, as you can get the regional breakdown, reassign area scouting, and just send all your scouts to different areas. That way they can go ahead and find the top tier prospects for your franchise league. Just kind of looking a little more into it. Here you go. You got the National, Western, Central, Northeast, Southeast. So with that, you got top prospects there that you can already look from that region and where that region's strong in. Like if you're looking here at the Western, their strengths are quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight end. Now, the weaknesses coming from the western side of the United States is your defensive tackles, corners, and linebackers. So they're more of the offensive side of the ball. So, say you need to go get a new quarterback. There you go. You want to go for a cornerback? Not so much. But, that's pretty much, that's going to be the big thing whenever it comes to scouting. So it's going to be very interesting to see, how these custom draft classes come to be, or is it going to be better this year to finally actually use the Madden generated? So if you're one of those guys that, in Madden 21 got your gold training and, set it, left it, goes in, sims every week, on that gold, which I did the same thing. So if you are, don't feel like I'm calling you out. They definitely changed this up. It wasn't a great experience according to a lot of other, users out there. So they have brought in weekly strategies. So looking at it, the NFL is a long season. One of the biggest challenges a head coach faces is the right balance of weekly game prep and getting players the right amount of rest. Each week, the NFL is a unique experience. Who you play, when you play, where you play, all factor all factor into how teams plans in the weekly strategy. So with that, we will go ahead. We'll get into all of the different home field advantages in the next video, but right now we're just talking about the weekly strategy. So with that, first thing you'll see when you go to the weekly strategy is your defensive game plan for the current week. Defensive game plan will show important information about your upcoming opponent's offense, including their team stats, where they rank, their overall run pass ratio, which same thing whenever you go into your weekly training on Madden 21. It was on the left. You had to kind of scroll through it. It's going to be a little different here. There's 6 focuses you can choose from. So this is going to be where it actually takes scouting your opponent into effect to where you want to know, are they more inside run, out, short pass, medium, deep? Do they run a lot? Do they like to scramble? What's going on there? How can we go ahead and focus our team to go ahead and stop them? Another thing, I don't know if it's going to be in here without looking, but from what I watched in the video earlier, they're going to be going and adding in halftime adjustments. So pay close attention to what's going on mid-game, because whatever's going on in the first half, if it's working, your opponent's most likely going to go ahead and continue to do the same thing. Well, the halftime adjustments are going to be there to where you can go ahead and make your own adjustments and get to the point where you should be able to go ahead and counter everything that they're doing. So before we get in that, we'll just kind of take a look at a larger look here of what's going on here with the weekly strategy. As you look at it here, choose your gameplay focus, defend the inside run, which here it shows the next gen stats here. Inside run, runs about 48.4% with number 26. I guess. Well, I don't know how that's supposed to be. If that's the general ranking within the overall franchise, but then it breaks down everything else as far as what is going on there, their top threat, and pretty much kind of just shows here a general just scheme as far as the inside zones there. Bounce doesn't really bounce runs outside. PA pass off inside runs. Not the greatest, but inside run defense is where you want to go ahead and fit and focus. So, with that, we'll go ahead. We'll look at the next one. Here you go. Here's your choosing your game plan. You can defend the inside run based off of the information that you have right here. You want to go ahead. You want to focus on the inside run. They're not much of an outside runner. All that good stuff to go ahead and stop them in their tracks. Which, same thing for the offensive side of the ball. They got the same exact thing going on. They got the focus on the top threat player, was specific next-gen stats, ranks associated with them. And as it goes in here, it talks about, if you're preparing for the Super Bowl, you want, your area of focus on defense to stop the Bucs' deep passing attack. But the offense is very similar. As you get in there, you see that they are very good at stopping the inside zones. So you want to focus more outside, or even go into, you can key in, on a throw it short game plan, focus on getting the ball out of your quarterback's hands quickly to slow down that pass rush. So just kind of looking at some of the gameplay focuses: inside run, outside, throw it short, medium, deep, or a blitz counter. So another difference, the offensive gameplay top threat players will not show player specific next gen, but team specific stats. All pretty much it's not going to break down certain players whenever you get to the offense, but you're going to be able to go ahead and generally understand what's going on per team. So looking at it, big improvements here is the gameplay focus choices that you can go ahead and you can carry over into Madden 22 from last year, to where it's going to be, the AI is supposed to be a lot better. Pretty much as you're looking at it, examples where we're talking about defending the deep pass, the pros, your defenders are going to get a little boost of the man zone coverage, just like they did whenever you did the weekly training in 21. But it's going to be a little different here. pretty much they're gonna add on to that. Another pro would be defenders for the deep zone assignments are going to give a little more cushion for those wide receivers, but the con of that is that's going to go ahead and leave a lot more room underneath for medium or short passes, and they're going to have a lot slower reactions whenever it comes to stopping the run, and pretty much the boost in AI behaviors will only trigger when you call a specific gameplay focus play. With that in mind, they've added new gameplay tab on the play call screen in game that will let you change what's going on as far as your team throughout. And pretty much is one of the other things, you can look at the tendencies, and you'll be able to see the top 4 concepts that your opponent likes to run, and you'll be able to go ahead and just kind of look, at least the situations, your first and 10, second long, second medium, short, third long, that'll be able to go ahead and help you throughout the game to figure out how you want to defend your opponent. So they are no longer having the week to week trainings. So where it was focused on 2 position groups, now it's going to be your entire, offense or defense that's going to earn that the weekly bonus per se as far as XP, and that's still going to be available, at the main menu, but it's completely out of franchise. Now, one of the biggest differences whenever it comes to Madden 22 compared to 21 is this right here. The controlling the players' health. You actually have to manage players' health and progressive fatigue systems, which they have introduced it here in 22, brand new, where your fatigue levels, they carry out all game. You got a running back, as it says down here, for example, a running back with 92 speed at the start of the game. They won't be able to reach that 92 speed at whenever it comes to the fourth quarter if they've been loaded up on carries the beginning of the game. So it's definitely going to be one of those things where you want to focus on a dual running back system, to go ahead and get your guys to where they're rested up, and they don't take too much of a beating, because you won't have them at full ability come the end of the fourth quarter whenever it matters the most. So it's gonna pretty much, like they said earlier, when, where, and who you play. It's definitely gonna make a big difference. All players at the end of the game at a degraded fatigue level will be brought into the Madden player health screens in weekly strategy. So with the player health screen, multiple options, the choice that you can make to help manage your players' fatigue levels. When entering the screen, you'll see overall offense, defensive team fatigue level. This will quickly give you an idea of, yeah, I completely lost where the hell I was at. But give you a quickly idea of where your team is currently fatigue-wise. You also see depth chart type view that shows every player at their current fatigue level. So, you could have, a guy like Fletcher Cox, he could be worn out from a game being double teamed the entire time, possibly triple time. Same thing like with an Aaron Donald. Well, after the game, they could be down there somewhere 40%, and who knows? You gotta change everything up. They might not gain as much XP that coming week because you're focused in on releasing them from practice, because as it gets down in here, as the coach, you have 2 choices you can make every week: intense practice and player reps. Pretty much for intensity, you're choosing how hard you want your team to practice that week, which means choosing full pads or half pads. Full pads give your players higher practice XP, gameplay focus boost, lessen fatigue recovery, and a chance for practice injuries. So that right there is going to be very interesting, because players can actually get injured at practice. So it's going to take a lot more looking into how your actual team is going to go ahead and figure out what's going on. Practice injuries, new feature setting term. Oh, so you can turn off practice injuries, but if you're gonna get real in depth, you want this to follow real life. leave it on. Leave it on. There are no long-term injuries from practice, as most of them are only week-long. Half pads are opposite lower XP, lower in-game play and focus boost, and higher fatigue recovery. Very low injury chance. Player reps allow you to assign practice reps for the week between starters and backups. So you'll be able to go ahead and just focus more on your starters, split it, or focus more on your backups. That's coming into one of those things where if I'm playing somebody that I know has never beat me, I pretty much manhandle them every time that we play. All right, that might be one that. All right, I'm gonna focus all that training on the backups. Let them go ahead and develop a little more than the starters, because I mean it's a two-way street. Because who knows, the next guy that I'm playing, I could need those starters getting all that extra work. So it's one of those things that you got to go ahead and you got to look at. Each player has a certain amount of daily fatigue to recover on non-game days. As season progresses, daily fatigue lessens, simulating how the NFL season is a grind. So, week one, you're going to start, at the highest fatigue level. And come week 15, 16, it's going to be lessened in general. So you got to, pretty much plan it all out. As you look here on the screen here, the manage the player health, this is kind of that depth chart that they were talking about, to where you can choose the full pads. You can go ahead and continue like starters per position group and just kind of see where everybody is at. So continuing to this, the final tab is the new weekly strategy. So pretty much you can, you still have the three guys that you want to focus on, get that focus XP, but through staff talents, you can actually purchase three more players to get added into that. So the another new addition is the weekly game plan goal. Each week you can choose a goal to earn more staff points to purchase more staff talents. The goal range from easy to hard. The hard ones award the most staff points, which is pretty much a given. You can decide on your goal based on your opponent each week. The team profile is also new, to where it actually will track your tendencies, and as it says here, you can self scout by reviewing your play calling tendencies for the same groups mentioned above. If you're calling four verts too often on third and long, then this play calling report will help show that. You can try to change up your offense. That way you can go ahead and change everything up, get a better mix within your own offense. And finally, once you're done with your pre-week setup, you'll ready up, and it'll advance the entire week, give you a full training log, and that'll show all of your XP earned, amount of game boost, fatigue recovery, lost or gain, as well as any players that were injured during the practice. So with the season ending, one of the biggest things that I've noticed in a couple leagues that I was in, guys weren't getting any dev trait scenarios. I know me personally, I had Miles Sanders in a Lions franchise. I had 2 or 3 games where he was rushing over 200 yards, and one game he broke the NFL single game rushing yard record, and still nothing. Did not achieve any sort of dev trait boost, any scenario. But in Madden 22, there will be 30 brand new scenarios taking place at any point throughout the season, whether it's preseason, regular season, playoffs, or Super Bowl. Each scenario has context-based trigger conditions, meaning that what happens in your franchise is going to detect when the scenarios will happen. Don't really know anything of how that's going to come out, but that's going to be at least something new to look at. Previously, all scenarios were based through text message interactions, led to similar scenario development regardless of conditions. One of the first things you'll notice, the most dramatic change of the scenarios, is the addition of module cinematics, similar to what you've seen in Face of the Franchise, to where you're actually going to have cutscenes through the regular season. Just kind of building onto your guide. Pretty sure down below it shows some kind of like this, the locker room. So, as Pete Carroll's here talking about Dwayne Eskridge, seems to be building nice chemistry out there, showing up not just practice, but games as well. Got to make sure I'm clicking on the right button. But, Russ is talking about how, he's a great safety net. And just kind of, these things here, which are going to help trigger, the scenarios throughout the game. But as we go ahead, we get back up here, we're going to be talking about some press conferences. So your coach will be fielding questions on how you're going to stop. So this is going to be like that, weekly message, X Factor quarterback, all that stuff. It's just going to be more, based as far as, an actual press conference and how you're going to go ahead and respond to that. The GM's office can be either placed on encouragement or promise, or placed to fill tension and accountability, depending on the circumstances. Earlier in the year, a meeting here might revolve around looking at college prospect that's on the rise, while meeting later in the year might include having tough conversation about how you're actually going to keep your job within the franchise. Just kind of taking the locker room, like that whole Pete Carroll thing, like I just showed earlier. It's going to change up some things as well. Dynamic actor goal, this new within our scenarios. Directly assign goals to players involved in our stories. So like within that, Russ Wilson, he would have had some scenarios added to him, which would go ahead and get you some staff points throughout. So pretty much, it's going to be like your goals that they had for the weekly goals there. That's going to help build your team. So the scenarios that get brought up, they're going to be very, very important, because there's temporary attribute boost slash nerfs, to whereas if they go ahead and they achieve the goals, they're going to get a boost. And as it says down here, majority of the scenarios will follow a 3, 5, 7 scale, being plus or minus 7, being least common boost that will usually last only one game, while the +3, -3s, or 5s will tend to be more common and could last anywhere from 1 to 3 games. So you want to go ahead and you want to make sure those weekly goals get hit every single week. And one of the big things, permanent attribute boost. God, I cannot speak, but pretty much as you're going through like preseason, as you got the mentorship coming up. You got the permanent attributes, where if you're able to go ahead and you got one of your senior guys talking about one of the younger guys, that's able to go ahead and keep those attribute boost with them. Balance is key. Permanent upgrades scale we use 3 to 5 range. So 5 is going to be harder, or the and focus more on a single attribute, compared to the 3 could be a little widespread. Now, one of the big things that could take a lot of changes to the league is the superstar X Factor activation, which really ties into the momentum, because with the momentum within this game, now it's going into the X Factors. If you're going up against somebody like that has the Buccaneers, has Tom Brady's, or the Chiefs that have Patrick Mahomes, Packers, with Aaron Rodgers, and you're able to go ahead and you're able to shut them down and get your X Factor. Well, the following week, if you have a guy that has an X Factor on your defense, he could start the game with that X Factor already activated, and it could either last the entire game, or has the potential to either have it activate to start your next game, or even have it activated the entire game. So momentum within players are going to go ahead and continue through everything as well. Staff points, we've already discussed that. Dev trait, joining our legacy breakout scenarios, we're calling them tiered breakout scenarios. These new scenarios can potentially span multiple weeks and evaluate a player, not just a single dev trait. Multiple dev traits if they have sustained success. So you could have somebody go from normal to star, and then that following week they still have another breakout game. Well, that could continue the dev traits to where they could possibly go up to a superstar there within a 2-week span, maybe even a couple more. So through the franchise hub, pretty much it's going to be kind of the same for the most part. Other than typically every Madden it's something different. But it's going to be a little, as far as like whenever you get in there, everything's going to be there on the main screen for the most part. And, you'll be able to find everything, pretty easy. Even though a lot of guys like the deep dive, they're still there. But like your passing leaders, all that stuff, they're going to be readily available to be able to go ahead and find that pretty much on the home screen. Your activities are going to be under the manage roster, to where you can go through and your depth chart and staff, all that good stuff. Resign team salaries. The home tab here, this here just kind of breaks it down as we got game day top player panels, goals panel, standings, key information, along with customized for player acquisition in a bye or off-season weeks. Game day panel will be placed with team information such as your salary cap and top team needs. Goals will become draft central, allows you the top 3 players at each top 3 needs in the upcoming draft class. And stats panel cover team stats. Standings will remain focused on what's ahead and who you're competing with. The news tab, new layout for news tab, surfaces and stories directly in the hub. You'll be able to immortalize your favorite in-game snapshots throughout news panel and stay up to date with league's top stories. The league tab, pretty much, it's the league tab. Pretty much general information: passing leaders, passing, rushing, receiving, sack, tackle, interception leaders, all there on the home screen. And within the options, that's where you're going to be able to do your XP sliders, gameplay, and league settings. And they're also having a brand new look whenever you're looking at all of the users, and it's broken down by each division. Taking a look here at the franchise tuning quality of life improvements, after expanding on the NFL 21's quarterback draft rules, which happened after the launch, the Madden 22 has enhanced the term logic first round across all player positions, including the improved teams' decision makings while they're on the clock. They'll now consider what pick they have in the first round when determining what player's position they would consider to pick to create the most positional value and tendencies to mimic the NFL draft in real life. So it's gonna be pretty cool to see how they actually got that figured out, because hopefully they, if we remember Madden 21, they focus a lot on what's going on as far as when you look at your team, you got A through F as far as position ratings. The draft class generator, new types of players been added to the rookie draft class generators, add even more variety and create memorable prospects to get excited about in the draft, especially those inside the top 10. So hopefully they fix the dev traits whenever it comes to the top 10. Increased balancing dev traits in generated classes, increase the chance of high development player in the first 3 rounds at a rate similar to real life rookie ratings, improved quality of first round generated players. So, I know multiple times throughout the rebuilds that I've done here on the channel, we go ahead and we take the number 1 guy of true talent, and he's a normal dev trait. So hopefully that there is fixed. Getting into progression and regression. So this was a big issue in Madden 21 with the regression. Mostly regression, not as much progression, because you got guys that are drafted come out as a superstar dev trait, and within a year or two, even though they're balling out, they could be dropped down to a start any time. So as we look into this, players still have a base amount of regression according to their age to ensure players ultimately do not phase out over time. But the new random chance modifier is based on the player's dev trait. The exact amount of regression a player will encounter is no longer linear, meaning players can regress at different rates in different franchises. So you could have 2 X factors in a league that are eligible to regress. Now, I don't know what makes them eligible, or how the deep dive on that is going to be, but they will, one could drop 4 overall as the other one will lose 1. So, it's going to be different as far as, who knows, maybe they might keep that X factor, but the end of the season development trait regression has also received tunings update to address examples of high rated players occasionally losing the dev traits that shouldn't have been considered. So there's some algorithm within Madden that they put in that you could have a X factor, and whenever a rookie comes in, they could be an X factor, and your guy could be coming off an MVP year, but if his time's up as far as that dev trait and his name gets pulled within the algorithm, he could lose it, and that rookie's going to take it. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get that figured out, because it even talks in here that there could be players that don't have that high of an overall, but they're still doing well. They could continue to keep their dev trait and work with it throughout the year. Trade logic, continuing target move improvements to. So taking a look here at trade logic and value, we are continuing to target improvements to player value and authenticity in Madden 22, starting with quarterback position, inserting the top single player callers are heavily valued and difficult to trade for. Teams will now be much more aware the top quarterback is extremely valuable and seek more for exchange. So there's no more, throwing in, some low overall offensive lineman or something like that to fit what the team needs to go out and get somebody like Patrick Mahomes. Elite non-quarterback will also receive increased value. Pretty much it. Age is going to be a factor. They're going to look into a lot of different things, and just kind of looking here at the authenticity 17 game schedule, make it as authentic as possible, adding the new 2021 NFL jersey rules to both the AI and user teams and franchise, to where players can actually change their numbers, all that good stuff. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. But what confuses me here is the weekly strategy for Xbox for pretty much everything will not have access to next gen stats other than outside and inside rushing for a player. So, who knows what exactly is going to go on there. But either way, that is going to do it for me. So make sure you go ahead and you hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment.